What's up, GV Gang? Brandon here with another prediction video, but not for the thing you might think we're predicting. I'm joined today by John Cartwright and Daniel Alba, and you might think we're here to talk about Switch 2, but no, Nintendo, much like with the 3DS, refuses to let the previous console die. There are a lot of rumors right now of a Nintendo Switch 1 Direct, and in case they're not rumors anymore, a Nintendo Switch 1 Direct has been announced, and now we have to talk about it.
Yay!
See that? That's editing magic, because now I can, either way, it works.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Anyway.
Master of his craft. Yeah.
John, how are you doing?
I'm splendid. The way I see it, Brandon, is sometimes we have all the video games in the world, and sometimes we don't. But regardless of what you have, you always want more. You're always grasping at that cloud in the sky, saying, give me more games. And we're never satisfied. Ever.
You're right. I'm not satisfied.
Always be hungry for more. Yeah,
Daniel, what do you think?
I think Nintendo just will not let go of the Switch. It will refuse to die. It kind of like how the Game Boy was around for actually ever. And now the Switch is going to have the same fate, in which we're going to just keep seeing Switch 1 games coming out. So a Direct, there's still some things we can have announced. I'm down to have a Switch 1 Direct. It's kind of weird timing to have a Direct after another, 1 week after another, but I mean, I'm here for it. This is a weird era for Nintendo right now.
It's not unprecedented. They've done this before.
We've still likely got around 3 months until the launch of Switch 2 as well. So we're going to have that Switch 2 Direct next week. But we still need 3 months worth of games to be announced, because right now that slate is pretty empty. I don't think Nintendo have anything other than Pokemon and Metroid.
Yeah, 2 games that are undated and likely to be second half of the year.
Yeah.
So, we have a big gap here to figure out. And John, I guess I'll throw it right to you. What do you think we're getting?
So, I think this is kind of the prime time for remakes and remasters. 3DS was covered in them. So one remaster I think they're going to do is a third-party one. And this is from a company that they love remaking, they love remastering. We're turning our gaze towards the fellas at Square Enix. We know that they've got Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D. That's coming out soon. That'll probably be in the Direct. But I don't care to talk about that, because that's a known quantity. We know what to expect with that game. However, we don't know what to expect with the Bravely Default franchise, which has continued and ushered on. We had the second game on Switch, but the first one and second on 3DS, still just swimming away. And I'd love to see a lot more 3DS games come to the Switch, and I feel like Bravely Default would be a really smart choice, especially if they just convert it to kind of look like the second game.
Yeah, that would just fall in a long line of Nintendo releasing full series of games on the platform, like just happened with Xenoblade. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Fills a bit of a niche on the console right now as well. Outside of Dragon Quest 3, we haven't had a lot of big traditional JRPGs lately. None that are coming to mind.
And it's also prime time for those kind of games. If you're not putting too much out there, which they might do, but having a big, chunky game is kind of the perfect thing. And Bravely Default had a few 3DS-orientated features. There were, it was quite a big Street Pass game. You could ignore it, but it helped build your town up. So I think there'll be a little bit to shuffle around, but in my opinion, that first game is still the best, and I'd just love to play it again on the big screen, especially seeing those big, beautiful, hand-drawn towns in HD. That'd be stunning.
It's so funny that you bring this up, because there was something somewhat adjacent to this that I was thinking about, and it was Final Fantasy related, but now I'm kind of thinking of it in the way of, as you mentioned, with Street Pass and Bravely Default. It'd be so fun if they did something similar to it just focus on the village building back aspect, but kind of lean it back into My Life as a King, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. I would love, Bravely Default has a good few number of titles in the series now, so I think it could do something kind of like a spin-off or something like that. And I was originally thinking something along the lines of, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, but I think it'd be more fun to do it in a different Square Enix title instead, in a different IP, and just do it with Bravely Default. The whole aspect is already there, and we don't know if we're ever going to see like that be brought back in the same capacity with Street Pass as we did on the 3DS. So why not just do something entirely different with it? That's
Man, you're tickling so many things right now. I feel so tickled.
I love it when I tickle
Default My
John's
Life
good
as a
sides.
King. Like that's the perfect thing you could say.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I've been wanting a spin-off of Splatoon for a long time, and one of the ideas that I came up with was just like an apartment kind of simulator, because like you see the apartment or the dorms or whatever in the title screen of, or the loading screen of Splatoon 1 on Wii U, and I thought that was so cool, and I thought it was so sad that there wasn't like a space we could customize. You kind of have that with the lockers in Splatoon 3, but like it's all about urban life in Splatoon, and you don't get to really experience that to its fullest. And I think having some kind of like social sim, like apartment simulator or something along those lines would be really cool in that series.
I've always felt Splatoon is prime for like a slice of life anime. Like just the downtime between the turf wars. I think that would be perfect as well. Hopefully they do some things. I think Splatoon needs that shake-up that isn't just the core games over and over.
Yeah, I think like an experimental spin-off of Splatoon would do well right now. Splatoon 3 has winded down. They're just repeating events in the game now. They are releasing new content, technically, but it's actually old content from Splatoon 2. A neat way to extend the life of the game, but just having another core experience in that series, I think, would do well in these final moments of the Switch 1's life. But I also think we're going to get a little bit more on NSO. NSO is kind of drying up a little bit, I think. We've had some rare games come out on NSO, and there's still more to go. I know I'm always yelling about Diddy Kong Racing, but I think Donkey Kong 64, even Conquer, those games will come eventually. I think this would be a good opportunity to drop a few of those.
Year of the Kong. Year of the Kong. We started off with returns. We got DK94 like a week ago. We need Donkey Kong 64. We need Diddy Kong Racing. We need Donkey Kong and the Swingers. We need it all. Was that what it's called? King of Swing.
Donkey Kong and the Swingers.
It's a different DK game than I remember. I feel like Donkey Kong 64 might be the one that comes up first of all of them because of how much they're just celebrating DK this year. The theme park, all the titles on NSO just coming out seemingly all at once. It seems like the right time to release DK64, given that we're getting all these rare titles, but where's the monkey himself? Not even Diddy Kong Racing yet. I'm still waiting on that too, Brandon.
Yeah, it's really weird, but them releasing DK94 as recently as they did does make me feel like they're just spreading them out over the rest of the year. I'm sure those games are coming. But it's not the only Donkey Kong game I have on my list here. I know we just recently got the remake of Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but I think they're going to dig up those minis again. Those minis are going to cause more mayhem. Whether it's a remake of an old one or it's a new one, this is easy stuff for them to put out. So I think it's time that they just drop either a freemium or just a cheap, like, March of the Minis type game. Except when I wrote it down in my notes here, I wrote it as Mario versus Donkey Minis.
Well, I think this is a good choice. It's a smart, like, asset reuse game, because they built the foundation with the first remake. I'd be really disappointed, though, if it were another remake, because the first one was, like, bringing back the confidence of the original game, which was great. There are other good Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, but none of them I feel like are on a pedestal. And I'd rather they just take it away with something new. Especially because NST have been on a roll. They did F-Zero 99. They helped with Bowser's Fury. They feel like a premium developer again. So I'd love for them to do something like brand new this time.
Yeah. I thought, like, what was it, Tipping Stars? That was the last one on Wii U, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was an interesting idea, even if it felt a little cheap. I think another, like, if they were to do another minis game, having like a bigger social element would be neat. But I think I would prefer just a more like adventure-based minis game that's not just like a puzzler. Bring back some of those elements from the original Donkey Kong 94 and Mario vs. Donkey Kong and somehow incorporate that into mini-style gameplay. And I think they could make something cool there.
Get some swingers in there. I don't think Daniel's had a prediction properly yet, so let's give him the stage.
Oh no, I kind of squeezed mine in with the my life as a villager, whatever you want to call it. But I'm thinking here, is there any more Wii U ports that you would want to see now that Xenoblade Chronicles X is out there? What is the one Wii U port that we really don't have yet that everyone...
Devil's Third. It's Devil's Third.
I knew
it's
John was going to say Devil's Third.
Project Treasure?
We got Star Fox
Yoshi.
Guard.
Fluffy Yoshi Woolly World. But
that
at the
has
same
to
time,
be coming at some point.
because like at this point, I'm wondering, are we going to get a port of Yoshi's Woolly World on the Switch, or will they do a new title again? It's hard for me to like pinpoint like what would be the best course of action for Yoshi at this point, considering the Crafted World was kind of just an okay game.
People might hate me for this, but I would be okay if they just didn't make another Yoshi game.
See, I felt like that for a while too, because Crafted World, while fine, wasn't anything exciting. But then I looked at the release date, and that came out like 7 years ago now. I was like, maybe it has been enough time for Woolly World to return.
That's the thing, though. Like, I'm a guy who likes Yoshi's story. I actually like Yoshi's Crafted World a lot. I wasn't super big on Woolly World for a lot of reasons. But I still think it's a good game, and I think we should get a port of that at some point. But I would like to see them take another earnest attempt, and I want this to be like as in-house as it can be. Another attempt at Yoshi's Island. They have never reached the heights of the original Yoshi's Island again, and I think that's such a shame, because it can't be that hard, can it?
Well, they always just kind of do it again. Like, they just very closely follow the foundation of the original and don't change that much. Like, what if the eggs were big? That's what the 3DS one was. And like, Woolly World is genuinely really good. I think it has different pacing, but it still has so many parts which are just like, this is Yoshi's Island again. Like, a lot of the bosses are just very similar. But Woolly World is a really good game, though. Great in co-op, lovely art style. I think it's just head and shoulders above Crafted World. And I do hope it comes back, because the 3DS version had some unique features too, like the Poochie Pups. And they updated the amiibo to be more current with the 3DS version, and there's more amiibo to update now.
What, remind me, what was the team that just did the DK port?
Forever Entertainment.
I have a feeling like if it comes to Switch or Switch 2, it will be a Forever Entertainment project. For better or for worse.
I'm full of so much fear that they are like a likely candidate for everything in the future.
It's such a specific situation too, because like it's another game ported to 3DS that got additional content. So like they've already done it once, so that means they could do it again.
It's a very Donkey Kong situation.
Was Woolly World an original engine? Because Crafted World was Unreal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been whatever good Phil used before Unreal.
Okay. So they would still end up then trying to port it to Unity, like they did with DK.
Yeah, probably.
I've got another prediction here. This one is a little bit more fleshed out.
Okay.
It's kind of a joke, but at the same time, this is something I want. Maybe not exactly the way I've written it. So here it is. It's been a long time since we've gotten a brand new Wario Land game. Wario Land 3 is one of my favorite Game Boy games of all time. It's a bit of a black sheep in that series, but I like it a lot. I think Wario Land's going to come back in that hand-drawn anime style they did for Shake It, except this time it's Wario Land Prove It. And here's the pitch.
Is there a murder?
Wario has to prove that he is the most odorous man of them all. You shake the Joy-Cons to charge his belly and craft the most outrageous flatulence. He can eat different types of garlic to generate farts of different elements, like fire farts or poison. And it's all capped off with a villain called Silence Be Deadly.
Do you anticipate this selling well?
No. But I'd buy it.
Game developed just for Brandon to play.
I'd love Wario Land back in any capacity. It's been so long since Shake It. Well, that was like 2008 or something.
Yeah.
And it was a lovely game. Wario Land 4 came out on NSO a few months ago, and it felt like people were just discovering that for the first time and seeing so much joy on socials. It's just such a lovely formula. And even if it had that mechanic, I'd like a new Wario Land game.
He says with caution.
Just like, it'd be okay. We'll go with it. Very well
We take
coded.
what we can get over here.
I like that Wario games tend to be like weird. It doesn't need to be weird in that sense, but I don't know. It's just like a game like Wario World on GameCube. I love that game because it's so like off the beaten path for a Nintendo game. He's like fighting porcelain doll babies and you know, bulls and Speedos. It's just a really strange game, but I love it for that. And I'd love for Wario to kind of go back into that well a little bit, while also retaining that really, really nice 2D style from Shake It.
And if you don't really want a Yoshi game to return, then Good Feel, who did Shake It, would be like a prime candidate for this game.
Yeah.
And also, if it's hand-drawn, I think the thing to keep in mind with a lot of these Switch 1 games is if they fit the hardware, it doesn't make sense for them to be on Switch 2. Or if they are on Switch 2, just up the resolution. But a lot of these games, if it's like older ports or games kept to a certain style, there's no reason they couldn't be a Switch 1 game.
Yeah, and I think this is the perfect game to release like as a swan song title, because, you know, Wario Land does not historically sell well. It's weird, but, you know, it's Mario adjacent, so it still has that brand recognition. So, you know, it's unsafe, but it's being released at a safe time.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story, okay? So, last week, Xenoblade Chronicles X launched on store shelves.
Wow.
Yeah, a few years before that, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 launched on store shelves. A few years before that, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 launched on store shelves.
Wait, what's
a few years
happening?
before that, Xenoblade Chronicles launched on store shelves. But it wasn't alone. There was a trilogy of games that launched on store shelves around the same time. We're talking Xenoblade Chronicles, The Last Story, and Pandora's Tower. The Forgotten Sheep of the Wii. There were a lot of hurdles getting them to America, but in Europe, those launched in like a few months apart. And they are great games, The Last Story and Pandora's Tower, but they have kind of been left in the shadow of Xenoblade. And The Last Story in particular, I think has pretty big potential to sell quite well. It's made by the Final Fantasy creator. It's got a really good story, really great combat. Looked great for the Wii. I think if you updated that in a similar way to Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition, it would still look really good. The cast is great. It's a really good game that hasn't really had a chance that it needs to thrive. Pandora's Tower is a little bit more tied to the Wii. There's a bit more pointing. It has classic controller controls, but they don't work particularly well. But I think you could adapt that more. But The Last Story, I think, would be a really good fit for the Switch.
I remember The Last Story being the one of the set of 3 that I was the most interested in. And then I ended up never playing it. So I'd love the opportunity to get to play that on modern hardware and just see what it was all about.
Yeah, I think that's a few people. A lot of people just, they know of it, but they haven't really played them.
Yeah, like Pandora's Tower, I have no idea what that game is to this day. I just know it was in that group of games.
We should find out.
Yeah.
It's good. I won't explain it. We'll find out when it's in the Direct, okay?
Right. You heard it here. It's in the Direct.
That's when John will explain it to us.
You got another one, Daniel?
You know, I think it's really interesting how in this generation we have a lot of titles where they release the remaster of it, and there's also a little something extra with it as well. There's Bowser's Fury for Mario 3D World. There is that Magler episode with Kirby and the Return to Dreamland. Even with Xenoblade, the epilogue that's there as well. They're adding a lot of stuff to these to add more value to it. And even in games where it's not the main focus, there's still like an extra side mode. Like Pikmin 4 has Oliver's Shipwreck Tale. So I love it when they add something extra to also add on to, if it's a new title, if it's a remake, it's just something like to help, chew on as while you're waiting for the next title to come out. I would love it if they did something like that with a game series that is pretty much the last chance they'll have to have anything on the Switch for Star Fox. So what if we did something? It could be something as simple as like porting over Assaults and just add like another side chapter in which it could be something where you're like solely on foot to bring back that Star Fox Adventures feel again. Or it could just be, its own extra side story. I'm still like crafting this as I'm talking about it, but it's mostly because there's no Star Fox title that's on the Switch. There's, for crying out loud, there's F-Zero. It has revived itself on the Switch, but Star Fox is kind of still in the dust. I think that Nintendo doesn't really know what to do with it. They're kind of in stasis with Star Fox, but at least doing something like this would help gauge interest in what they could do for a new title if one ever wants to arise on Switch 2.
Zero is like always the logical one people go to. I think Zero is a lot more tied to the Wii U than people realize. I won't get into it too much. I've explained it before, but the gamepad does have a lot more than it seems. Assault though would be really interesting, not just because of the epilogue stuff you talked about or the new chapter stuff, but the multiplayer was great, but it was also very limited on the GameCube. Like you have these really big battlefields you can get into R-wings and fly around, but imagine that with like 32 players. Like that would be wild, and I think that could probably sustain itself as like new content in a way.
It would give them a chance to refine those third-person shooter controls, because they're not fantastic on GameCube. Like they work, but there's like a level of control that feels like it's missing, and I'd love to see that be rectified with just a port of that game with online. People don't realize, like, Star Fox Assault, once you've unlocked all of the content in multiplayer, they were trying to, like, rival what a Halo multiplayer experience would look like.
Pretty much.
Like, the amount of options and game modes and weapons and anything that, or, like, all that stuff you can unlock, there's so much. Like, it's a shame that it's just locked to 4 players on one console.
I believe it was largely done by the Ace Combat developers, and they've not shipped a game in a while. So, like, maybe they're cooking up Star Fox. Who knows?
Yeah, Bandai Namco was on work with that one in particular. So, yeah, you never know. They could be working on something for that as well for Star Fox. I'd love to see that and see what they can make from here.
Do you know what else we've not seen in a while? Camelot. What are they cooking up? Mario Golf Super Rush was what? 5 years ago?
It was quite some time ago now, yeah.
Yeah, they usually do a game every like 2 or 3 years, but Camelot have just been sitting on the sides. And they've got their sports games out on the Switch. Maybe the logical thing is probably they're cooking up a Switch 2 sports game. But what if they are returning to their roots with Golden Sun? And there are 2 routes you can go here. So we've got the original 2 on NSO. Maybe they're happy with that. Or they can do the thing that they usually do with like Famicom Detective Club or with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon or Mario vs. Donkey Kong. And that's return to your roots to build some confidence. So they could remake Golden Sun. Or they can just do Golden Sun 4. What if we're back? What if we're just back with a turn-based Nintendo first-party RPG? What if it's back over here? And what if it's the swan song of the Switch?
I know that John watched that episode of The Win where I talked about what's something that can appear in Switch 2 that we haven't seen in a while. I said Golden Sun. And so, well, that was one of my predictions for a different prediction video. But at the same time, Golden Sun is a series that we haven't really seen anything of since Dark Dawn on the DS. It's been lying dormant for a long time, and Camelot just hasn't really dipped into that side for a very long time. They've always just been working on sports games for as long as we can remember now. But I want them to be able to go back and treat Golden Sun as a proper, like a pillar of a JRPG, as it was standing in the Game Boy Advance era. So if that's something that we do see come back again, I would love to see that. Whether it's like continuing the story, whether it's like a different era, I think that would be fantastic.
I love what Shell Shock's saying in live audience as well, because we're entering an era where Claphands, who did Everybody's Golf, is now a third-party developer. They're not Sony-owned. So it'd be super cool if Nintendo got Claphands to take over from Mario Golf, where we're like freeing up Camelot to do, Golden Sun again. I'm going to rapid fire some smaller games real quick. So, not sure if you guys saw, but Plants vs. Zombies got trademarked recently. I forget the specific name, but it sounds like a remake of the first game. That'd be rad to see here. You know what else would be rad? Vanillaware with Muramasa the Demon Blade. There was a Vita-enhanced version which had like a new story, new features, just built upon the Wii game. I just want that on the screen. I just want that on a big screen with lovely HD visuals, because Muramasa is like one of the most beautiful games ever, but it's always been in standard definition. So I'd love that to just flourish. And one more thing I want to say is just rapid firing. Switch Sports Frisbee. We need to get on that beach with a nice HD dog. It can be a sportsmate looking dog rather than me looking dog. We're going to throw the frisbee to that dog. We're going to play golf frisbee. I think that'd be a lovely thing to do.
It's a shame that we're not already doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And then the video just ends.
Roll credits.
I think there are some other ones, just that we've been hearing about for so long that they might crop up here finally. Kirby Planet Robobot,
Yes.
Possibly Metroid Prime 2. Daniel, I know, is chomping at the bit.
He's holding on to his chest.
Yeah,
He's got close to the vest.
You can say Fire Emblem. It's okay.
We were going to go the entire discussion without talking about Fire Emblem. So Fire Emblem 4 has been the most popular Fire Emblem in Japan for the longest time. Genealogy of the Holy War.
He's pitching it to us.
Everybody that got tired of how goofy and silly Engage is will be crushed at their soul when they play Genealogy of the Holy War. It's probably the most serious story that you see in a Fire Emblem title, which is going to be interesting to see what happens with localization. There are certain aspects, there are certain themes that probably might not fly too well today, but that makes me more excited to see if they're going to keep it intact and stay true to it than to like rewrite certain aspects, because it's kind of that just is part of the story. But yeah, this title has been something that I've been waiting for a long time. It's probably done. Engage was done.
It's been done for years.
Engage
it's just
was
sitting in a chest somewhere.
Engage was done for years as well. COVID and scheduling really flipped over a lot of stuff, and Genealogy was also part of that. There's reasonings that you can look into that I could do a whole video about. We're not going to do that here. I hope that we see this now. If we don't, I guess it's going to be on the Switch too. And it's going to get like the treatment, I believe, of the pre-production quality of Three Houses and also Shadows of Valentia, because that really, Shadows of Valentia was what started that really like higher ceiling of production value that went into Three Houses. So yeah,
like voice acting and like exploring freely. Like there's really cool innovations there.
Yeah, those are both there in Fire Emblem 4. Those being able to explore freely to an extent kind of evolved from Genealogy into what we have nowadays with like exploring Garrick Mach and the Somnial. But yeah, there's I go along a lot more about this if it does get announced. But yeah, that's my spiel for Fire Emblem. I'm sorry, everyone, to subject you to this yet again.
We'll keep saying it. Eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah, if I keep bothering Nintendo and sending mail every week, eventually they'll answer me, right?
You just send them shadows in a letter, but when they open the letter out, there's nothing there, because that's not how light works.
I think we're leaving kind of a big elephant in the room, not talking about Metroid Prime 4. Does that show up here?
They'll go like, okay, time for one more thing. And it's UFO 50 rather than Metroid Prime 4. And I'll be pretty happy about that.
I do want to see... I do feel like I want to see Prime 2 before Prime 4. But it's so weird to schedule this right now because it's like with the Switch coming out, is it going to be cross compatible? Do they want Prime 2 out before? It's a toss up with Metroid right now.
It might be it might not be a bad idea to show it, because if they show it again in the Switch 2 presentation and it looks dramatically better, then you've got a point of reference.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously this is a big game. It's been in development since 2018. They put a lot of resources into that. They're not going to want to just throw it out there and have it do okay. They want to give it as big of a stage as they can. But both ways you go about it, they can hold on to it and treat it as a big Switch 2 game, or they can show it off now, and then after the presentation, people are like, "Oh, look, just comparing the two, like, look how much better it looks." Because that kind of bolsters both elements, the game and the platform. So I kind of think that might be the smarter thing to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Those presentations are so close together that, it'll be fresh in people's minds when they see it in both. So yeah, I think that's a good call. I feel like that game's probably slated for like September, October.
Yeah, it won't be. It's either a launch title or not far from launch.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's still going to come to Switch 1. I want to clarify, chat.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not unhappening, right?
No.
For as many years
they showed it last year on Switch 1. Of course, it's coming to Switch 1.
Yeah, and they announced it back in 2018. Pushing it to the next console at this point, I think, would be a really bad look. So having it as a cross release, I think, makes the most sense.
Yeah, you also got Pokemon Legends and the block game, the block beta game. We don't know what that is or when that's coming.
It sure needs to be on Switch 2.
But we played on Switch 1 though, so it's probably both.
I don't think it should be. But yeah, any other predictions before we wrap up here?
Yeah, they're going to end on Puyo Puyo Puzzle Pop escaping Apple Arcade, and everyone's going to applaud.
We're going to cheer.
Roars from the crowd.
Yeah.
There's going to be, I'm tired of this conversation, there's going to be no Zelda. It's going to be Switch 2. You're going to see Wind Waker on Switch 2. Deal with it. Every other Zelda's on Switch right now. We're going to have that be exclusive, so you want to buy a Switch 2 to replay Twilight Princess and Wind Waker.
4K, 120 FPS, ray-traced Wolf Link. Nothing else is ray-traced, just him.
Wind Waker with 27 times more bloom than it had last time.
Yep, you can bet. There's warnings at the start of the game about eye injury.
You either see everything perfectly while you're behind, the sun's behind you, or you turn it around and just the whole entire screen is lens flare and you can't see anything.
Yeah. Level 5 will be here. They will give release dates, which are then later delayed. Fantasy Life probably won't be delayed. Inazuma 11 probably will be again. Layton probably will be again. And Deca Police.
Where the hell is Deca Police?
That's like 2027 now, right?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. It keeps going back. I think it's a myth now.
Thanks for hanging out with us, talking about Switch 1 Direct predictions. Let us know your predictions in the comments below. Is there anything that we said that you agree with? Anything that you disagree with? We'd love to hear it. If you'd like to watch these discussions happen live, you can join our Patreon Silver tier and become a part of our community here in the live audience. But we've got plenty of more Switch stuff to talk about here in the coming days, so keep it here to GVG, subscribe if you haven't. But until then, keep the games good and the vibes greater. Bye now.
Bye.
Until we meet again.
How likely do you think it is that they'll announce like Bowser's Hot Sauna? Is that coming?
I hope
Bowser's Furious Sauna.
Yeah. And like, it comes with some Joy-Con that just adjusts by temperature. So like, you can feel it get warmer as the sauna gets warmer.
So they'll use the IR camera again.